If you've been around for a while, then you know how much I care about financial freedom for all. One thing that often gets in the way of that is debt. That's why I'm happy to announce that I've partnered with an amazing organization called Juno. Juno helps you get lower interest rates by using the power of group negotiation. It is a completely free resource that you can use to secure lower interest rates on new and existing student loans. Head to the link in the episode show notes to find out more. This is the Dreamers Podcast, episode 27, with Ellie Diop, also known as Ellie Talks Money. Today is July 20th, 2021, and this episode is a replay of our most popular episode to date. This is a great reminder that on the other side of hardships and struggle, if you just keep going and never give up, you're going to get to blessings. And so I hope you enjoy today's episode.
Biggest thing I've learned is that you need to stop thinking what if on a negative note and start thinking what if on a positive note. Like, what if it works? What if you completely sell out? What if you make all the money? What if you get to 50,000 followers? What if you get to 100,000 followers? I totally have changed my perspective, and it's so easy to give in to thinking negative, but switch that. It feels better to think positive, and then just go for it.
This episode is brought to you by Dream of Legacy. Check out dreamoflegacy.com for resources to assist you on your journey to financial independence.
Hello, world. Welcome to the Dreamers Podcast. I am Stephanie Anne-Lyse, also known as Anne-Lyse Wealth. I'm a financial coach and an author. I self-published my first book, Dream of Legacy, a guide to help dreamers reach financial independence and build generational wealth. In this podcast, I'll have conversations with experts and thought leaders who dare to follow their dreams. You'll hear about their journey and their money stories. I hope it inspires you, dreamers out there, to live life on your own terms.
Come on, dreamers, let's change the world!
Hello, dreamers. Welcome back to the Dreamers Podcast. I am your host, Anne-Lyse Wealth, and I am so happy that you tuned in today. My guest today is Ellie Diop, also known as Ellie Talks Money on social media. Ellie is an entrepreneur, a speaker, youth mentor, and a business coach. At 25 years old, Ellie was leading a team of 100 people as head of sales for a financial services company. But in 2019, she lost her job. She was laid off. And at the time, she was a mom of 4 kids, including twin babies. So Ellie started her business out of necessity, and she learned to use social media to scale up her business in the process. In 7 months, she grew her Instagram following from 500 people to over 100,000 people and counting. She also tripled her income during the pandemic. Ellie has empowered thousands of women by providing resources to start an online business and earn money online. But at some point, Ellie was homeless. How did she overcome all those challenges? We talk about all of that in today's episode. All right, here's Ellie Talks Money. Ellie Diop, welcome to the Dreamers Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you. I remember meeting you sometime last year on Instagram, actually. And, you mentioned that you were a single mom, you had 4 kids and twin babies, and I have twins as well. So I remember how much work that was when they were babies, and I was just in awe. So I'm so excited for the listeners to hear about your story.
Thank you so much. I'm really appreciative of that. And yes, having twins is quite the feat. So it's definitely something that we're both managing.
So can you tell us a little bit more about you and what you do?
Yes. So I am a business coach. I started business coaching Really last year. I came out of corporate America around the end of 2019 as a director of sales, and the company I was working for, they closed down, so they laid everyone off. And so when the pandemic hit, I had to think, how can I take the skills that I've gained in business and in management and leadership and create some kind of business, especially now that things are shut down. So I took to Instagram, and I started my page around July of 2020 with about, maybe 300 or 400 followers. It was just my regular personal page. And I just started sharing tips and advice about business and everything that I knew. So now I do one-on-one coaching for people who want to grow their business online, as well as coaching on the more strategic side of business, such as choosing the right entity, building your business credit, getting funding, and etc.
I'm very sorry to hear that you were laid off recently, but it looks like it worked out for the best.
So when you were laid off last year, what made you decide to actually start a business? Because, some people would feel like I have small children, maybe I should postpone this. Why didn't you just look for another job?
Well, what's funny? I did look for so many jobs and I was so qualified, but I was not getting called back. So I had so many excellent letters of recommendations. All of my bosses really liked me. I had a personal recommendation from my CEO, but nothing was biting. And so that was a sign to me that God wanted me to go in another direction. And I also felt like, because of the fact that that job was so easily gone, that I had to find something that could not be taken away. And that is why I knew I had to start a business, something that was my own, something that I could control my income every day. So if that day I didn't earn money, it was on me. But if that day I wanted to earn $5,000, it was also on me. Having that control so that I would never be in a position where I was a mom with kids without a stream of income. So that was really the key motivation.
You mentioned earlier that the fact that you were laid off and couldn't find a job afterwards was probably a sign from God that you needed to start something of your own. I've seen a video where you talk about purpose and how important it is to actually fulfill your mission on this earth. Can you tell me how your purpose plays into your dreams?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I was fortunate to get promoted and have really great jobs from a very young age. Around 25, I was leading a team of 100 people. So I gained a lot of experience in a short amount of time, and I never felt like that was a mistake. I always felt like if this is happening, it's because it's meant to happen, and it's also because there's something God wants me to really learn from this and take with me. So I began thinking that after I was not successful in another company seeing my worth and hiring me, I just leaned more into my faith. And I thought, well, maybe this is meaning that my skill and my purpose and my value needs to be disseminated on a wider scale. Maybe it's not just meant for one company. Maybe I'm meant to touch several individuals who don't necessarily work for just one company. And I'm still discovering my purpose. I feel like little bits and pieces are revealed all the time, but I definitely do think that the rejection that I was constantly receiving was leading me to preparation for where I was supposed to be, right? And so it's very important for people to recognize that oftentimes so many people give up when they keep getting no's instead of just redirecting. So yeah, I really think the rejection prepared me for the redirection, to look and say, okay, this door is not opening, so it's time for me to find another door. And that's how I continue to walk, and that's what I continue to do. And I feel like that's what helps me to get closer to fully discovering my purpose and then embracing it, is just always paying attention. If something is not going smoothly or organically, then perhaps that's not exactly what I need to be doing. Let me try something else, and going with that. So I think a part of my purpose is to assist a large amount of people with accomplishing their goals, with freeing themselves from financial hardship, and also with just giving them knowledge. That's why I care so much about sharing tips on my Instagram and on my page, because I really do want people, even before they necessarily pay me for coaching, I do want them to have information that can empower them with knowledge.
I really like what you said about basically playing with the cards that you have, right? Sometimes you can be in a difficult situation and, some people would actually take that time to just really be down. And it's really amazing that you use that to figure out what to do. And I think, probably being a mom of 4, you don't really have the luxury to focus on what's going wrong, and you have to figure out how to make it with what you have.
Absolutely.
I think I read somewhere that you were homeless at some point.
I did share that on my page. That was a few years ago after I had lost a different job. One of the first job I had out of college with American Express. We moved back to Los Angeles, and kind of one circumstance led to another. And yes, I was pregnant. My husband at the time and our first son, we were in a motel for a few months until I got another job, which then became a very high paying job. So it was only temporary, but it's a big part of my story and something I'll never forget, because it was also at that point that I realized I could never leave my ability to support my kids or my financial situation in the hands of anyone else.
It's interesting, right? It's a recurring theme. It seems that the most important thing is to not give up. You went through the difficult time and then you got a better job, and you were laid off from that job. And then I think I read that you were able to triple your income during the pandemic.
Definitely. So it's been a real blessing this, 2020, while it was very challenging in so many ways, I also feel that it encouraged a lot of us, or specifically me, to face my fears and to realize that you can either start or you can stay stuck in the same place that you are. You learn nothing from being stagnant, but you learn everything by starting. And I had to just push myself to just start. It was at a point where I was like, what do I have to lose by starting to build something on Instagram? Let me just see where this goes. And I chose Instagram specifically because I was somewhat familiar with the platform, and it seemed, I'm a visual person. So I thought, let me take my own likeness and start sharing information on Instagram. And by being consistent and coming from a place of really wanting to deliver value, it's been a real blessing.
Earlier, you mentioned that when you started your Instagram, you had less than 500 followers.
Mm-hmm.
Today, you have over 50,000 followers, and it's in a 6-month period.
Yeah.
And you are monetizing your Instagram, and you're encouraging other women to do the same. Can you talk more about how you're monetizing your Instagram?
Sure. With me, for monetizing my Instagram, I specifically offer coaching services and courses. I am not in the physical product space yet, but digital products, ebooks, and services, one-on-one or group coaching services, is how I was able to successfully start making money with Instagram. And the great thing about it is it was a very low startup cost for me, because it was a pandemic. I'm a mom. I wasn't going to start a product-based business where I had to put in $5,000 for inventory. I created a course on what I knew, which was credit at the time, personal credit. And then I later created a course on Instagram growth tips. Because as I started having a little bit of success, I said, you know what, let me test out this monetization strategy that I have in my head and see if people will buy my course and pay me to speak to them. And it started working. My first course was $20. And I remember the first day that I sold one, I was so excited. I even took a screenshot like, wow, this is possible. Like, I can make money on the internet. And I used to do coaching calls for free at the very beginning just to get testimonials. At a certain point, I started charging. So my first price was like $47 perhaps an hour. And then I quickly realized I realized my worth and that the strategies I was giving were working. And Since then, I've learned so much more. I've developed other products, and I've also gained a real temperature for what my audience wants to hear. And so I'm really able to deliver that to them.
I can tell that women learn a lot from your page.
I sure hope so. That's always my goal. I want people to come away feeling inspired and also like they learned something. I could just only focus on what's going to make me the most money, but I also really want to deliver value. So I do put a lot of time and research into what I share because, I do recognize that people are listening and they're watching, and some people are implementing what I say. So I never want to just share something whimsical or incorrect. And I would say for anyone who wants to start and do something similar, monetizing their Instagram or figure out how they can sell what they know, always focus on delivering value first. Don't start out necessarily money hungry because people will sense that. You have to build that know, like, and trust factor. And that comes from a place of really sharing information kind of just for the sake of it. And then people will keep coming back for more. And at that point, you're able to really deliver what people are asking for, and then you can put a price tag on it. But really come from a place of sharing value. And at that point, again, you'll be in a position where you can just name your price because you've already established yourself as someone who knows what you're talking about and as someone who cares. And people buy into services or products because of the person.
So how do you suggest that someone actually create value on Instagram?
I think you've got to come up with what it is you want to talk about, what it is you want to be known for. So if you're very good at cooking, let's say, you're very passionate about vegan recipes, right? What do you want people to come to your page feeling like they gained? Do you want them to come feeling like they now know how they can incorporate vegan food into their lifestyle, even if they're not vegan? Do you want them to know how inexpensive it is or different ways that it can be inexpensive? Do you want them to feel really gratified, feeling like they can take better care of themselves now because they saw one of your posts? You have to first determine what do you want the audience to gain, and then you build from there. But it can't come from a place of what do you want to gain, because you cannot take yourself to, becoming a millionaire, essentially. You will get yourself there, especially if you want to be in sales, right? You will get yourself there by determining what does the audience need, and then how can I give them that to then help me reach my goal. It has to come from a selfless place.
I love that. So it's about finding out what the audience needs, getting in touch with what your skills are, and figuring out a way to deliver value to your audience based on what you know, as opposed to just trying to go at it and give them whatever you think they need without even knowing what you're doing because you're just trying to be self-serving.
Exactly.
So what are some of the ways? I know you mentioned that you were selling digital courses. You mentioned that you were doing coaching. What are some other ways that people can monetize their social media today? And what are some of the mistakes to avoid?
So I would definitely say that if you're not necessarily having an idea of what ebook or service you can provide, you can also start with affiliate marketing. You can start with drop shipping. Those are two great ways that, again, have very little to no startup costs. All they require is time, consistency, and dedication with regard to posting on your Instagram. I would say mistakes to avoid would be not studying your niche and what works and what doesn't. I think that I was able to, or have been able to, have some success because I always am tapping into the pulse of my niche and of my audience. So I do a lot more content consumption than I do content creation, because I know that in order for me to create good content, I have to always be consuming good content. So I'm always reading, I'm always listening, I'm always looking at comments, I'm always everywhere so that I can be sure that I have a pulse on the niche, what they want. So my niche is money, business, generational wealth, etc. So I'm always tapped in there. That's how you will ensure that you create not only a brand or a business that will make you money, but something that can last, right? But you have to decide what that means to you, because some people want to just come on the internet and make a quick buck, run a couple of ads, sell some shirts, and they're out. And that's okay. You can do that. You can set up a page, run some ads, make some money, and you don't ever have to do any of this stuff that I'm talking about. But that costs money up front, right? To run the ads. If you want to really build a brand and a business, something that will continue to grow, and once you have an audience, you have it, right? It's a great thing to have because it can always be an asset to you as long as you nurture them. So if that's the route that you want to go, you have to be very mindful of the voice that you have and what you are saying and making sure that it's resonating, because you're not going to go into the niche of beauty and talk about cooking. You're not going to do that. You're also not going to go into the niche of cooking and talk about money and stocks. So you have to get clear on who am I targeting, what do they want, and how can I essentially bring in my own story, but still tie it into what this audience is looking for.
If you know anything about me, then you know how much I care about helping people take control of their finances and build wealth. Place Payments is a women-founded and run company in the payment processing industry. It is changing the lives of people seeking opportunities to earn supplemental income or to re-enter the workforce. Check out parkplacepayments.com to find out more. Sunday Skincare Day is one of the ways that I keep my sanity in these crazy times. Jumino is an all-natural, Black-owned skincare brand carefully handcrafted by parents who could not find the proper solutions to address their family skin problems. All Jumino products are made of organic and high-quality ingredients, meticulously chosen for their proven benefits to give your skin the smooth results and the glow it deserves.
So many great tips. Thank you so much for sharing those tips. You started your business at the beginning of 2020 or at the end of 2019?
Well, I started this page in 2020. I registered my business. I also sell life insurance, so I'm a financial consultant. That I started at the end of 2019. So that was already something I was doing after I was laid off from my job, but I really ramped up in 2020.
And you've been able to master the online space in such a short amount of time. It really feels like every step that you took prior to starting this business, every failure, every hardship has prepared you to basically capitalize on this moment.
I sure hope so. Thank you.
What is something that you wish you had known before starting your business?
I wish I would have known that it's not as scary as I thought. Really, I would have started this so long ago had I known who I was and had I known that it was possible. But we often talk ourselves out of so much because of fear. And then once we actually get in the water, it's not that bad. That's definitely something I wish I would have known, is that all it takes is consistency, time, and dedication for just about anything, and you can make it happen. But so often people want a maybe get rich quick thing, or they think that, they always only see, like people who come to my page now only see the 55K. So they think it happened overnight. They don't know all the months that I was at 300 followers, 1,000, 2,000. I only got to 10,000 followers in November.
I remember because I think we started following each other in the summer or something. And that's one thing that's really amazing to me because I've seen the growth and I've seen the work. I'm sure that whoever was following you before can see that too. And I hope that it can inspire them to also get out of their comfort zone and start that business and do what it is that they're dreaming about. And something you said earlier about how we get really scared about what it's going to be like. And once you're in it, yes, you do still have fear, but it just automatically starts moving. And then allowing yourself to get in that space, for me, it's just opened up my mind to so many more opportunities and things that I could be doing because fear doesn't stop me.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. That is so key.
Let's go back to your childhood a little bit. Can you tell us where you grew up? Tell us about a memory that you have from your childhood about money.
Oh, sure. So I grew up in Los Angeles, California with my mom. My mom and dad separated at a young age, but I've always been really close to both of them. So I grew up here with my mom. I went to a private school in Pasadena. And I think I first started to understand about money really pretty much at a young age because the school I went to was very, very prestigious and very, very expensive. But I was there on scholarship because I was very smart. And so I understood right away the difference between my class level, so to speak, and that of my peers. And it was at that moment that I knew, there were levels to this life, right? There were levels to money. I became very cognizant of the struggles my mom had and then the struggles that my friends' moms didn't have. So it made me very aware at that time that I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I didn't even know what that meant, but I always knew I wanted to have a business because I saw having my own as a way of controlling my money situation. And I saw it as a way I could pay my mom, pay my dad, help them to not have to work. And that's always been my motivation and still is my motivation. So I would say that that's really when I first began to understand money and the difference experiences that people have with money and how money works. So that was really key. And I went to that school from age 9 to 18. So it's really shaped my identity.
So those experiences from an early age opened up your mind to the possibilities that were out there if you actually started your own business.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's just amazing how
Our experiences as kids
really, really impact our views on life.
Mm-hmm.
It's just amazing that you were able to have that opportunity early on to realize what else was out there. Because oftentimes you'll just be exposed to your environment and you won't know the possibilities. And that's just the mindset is so important when it comes to building wealth. Knowing, okay, there is more than what I'm used to. And once you know that, it just really opens you up to what you can do.
Exactly.
What kind of financial education did you have as a kid? I know you mentioned that you learned about the differences between your classmates and yourself, but what about money education?
Well, I actually didn't receive much financial literacy education. My parents, no fault to their own, but I think when you don't know what you don't know, you can't teach it. So I always had a job. I started working from 16 because I always wanted to have my own money. And again, I always understood money as being a way that you can elevate your own circumstance and the circumstance of your family. So I always understood that, but I didn't learn about credit, investing, any of that until college, and then more so until I got married, which happened at about age 20. So I did get married really young, and I think that kind of ushered me into real life. So I began to educate myself about all of these things. But in addition, my financial literacy growth journey started as an adult. But that's something I'm going to do differently with my kids, is they're going to know these things from a young age. Sometimes families don't talk about money because they don't have money, but we have to recognize that understanding how money works, understanding how to invest, how to have a business, how to save, how to budget, your credit, these things should be common knowledge. Money should not be a privilege. It should just be standard, in my opinion.
I totally agree. I think the sooner we teach kids about money, the better off they will be. Like you said, you can't teach what you don't know. Once you do know, a lot of times we don't take the time to teach them. We really have to do that because that will help them in the future.
Yep, that's true.
You learned about money in your early 20s. Can you share one of your biggest financial mistakes and what you learned from it?
Biggest financial mistakes? Oh, so my first car was very expensive. It was really nice. It was very expensive, and it was one that I could not afford, and it got repoed like 6 months after I got it. I was a sophomore or junior in college. I think I was like 20. That was definitely my biggest mistake, and it was a mistake because I let somebody else talk me into getting the car, and I knew in my gut it was not right. But I let them talk me into it. I let them think that I would make enough money to pay it as a student. What the hell was I thinking? So that was my biggest money mistake. And from then, I have never spent something that was beyond my means. And I have never let someone else tell me or try to give me advice on a bill that was going to go in my name. Nobody should ever do that, right? You are the one who's going to be stuck with the bill. So your advice or intuition is the only one that matters. Don't let anybody tell you what to do with your money.
That was a good lesson to learn. And that's actually earlier than most people. So look at it that way.
I know. Oh my gosh. It was definitely a big lesson. I learned a lot from that. That's also when I really learned. I knew about credit, but once your credit gets damaged, then you really learn about credit because you're working on fixing it. So then I learned a lot about credit. So I mean, everything we go through happens for a reason, right? I won't say that I regret anything. However, these choices taught me how to make different choices. And now I can teach other people how to make different choices too.
So you are all about empowering women and working together, and I love that. Can you tell us more about Fire Your Boss and what you're trying to accomplish?
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with 2 partners, and Fire Your Boss, really kind of came up as just a catchy phrase that we were saying, and then it kind of really stuck. So now we have a Fire Your Boss University, which is a group coaching program, or a membership, I should say. It's a membership program. We have classes for our students a few times a week. It's growing, but it's becoming a good community. And the real motivation behind it is we're not telling everyone to quit their job today, right? Because at the end of the day, we all have bills. You need to ensure that your living is secured.
Exactly.
But what we do want people to understand is that you can be empowered to start that business, right? You don't have to feel like you should only have a job. You don't have to feel like you're only good enough to only have one stream of income, even if it's just a side hustle, right? Not everyone is going to be a full-time entrepreneur, but everyone should know the skill of how to generate money outside of their job. And that's really what this is about.
If this pandemic has taught us anything, you need more than just one stream of income. So the fact that you guys can teach others how to work their way to having multiple income streams is great.
Exactly. It's great to be part of something that is motivating so many people to step into their passion, because one thing we hear a lot is fear. I'm afraid. I don't know. What if? I hear that all the time. You can be stuck in that, and then you're still 5 years later, still going to be saying, what if? The biggest thing I've learned is that you need to stop thinking what if on a negative note and start thinking what if on a positive note. Like, what if it works? What if you completely sell out? What if you make all the money? What if you get to 50,000 followers? What if you get to 100,000 followers? I totally have changed my perspective, and it's so easy to give in to thinking negative, but switch that. It feels better to think positive, and then just go for it. Just go for it.
We spend so much time sometimes focusing on the negative that we don't even see all of the positive that surrounds us. And actually, when you focus on the positive, you do get more of it. I'm a big fan of gratitude and speaking positive things into existence. So I just love that.
Yes, exactly.
How about some rapid fire questions?
Okay.
Tell me about a book that changed your perspective on life.
Definitely two. One of them is called The Placebo Effect by Joe Dispenza, and the other is called The 5 a.m. Club by, Robert, I think is his name. I need to look up his name again, but both of these are amazing books. Literally, I need to actually go reread The Placebo Effect, but I have read The 5 a.m. Club twice already. Really excellent books.
What was special about those?
So the placebo effect is actually written kind of from a scientific perspective, and it talks about how neurologically we can literally change the outcome of the way our body feels and the outcome of things that happen in our environment by what we choose to think about and what we choose to give focus to. So he includes a lot of case studies about people who were suffering from things like depression, even actual physical diseases that they were told they could not cure. And through the power of meditation, prayer, and focused thought, they healed themselves because your brain responds to what you give it and tells your body to respond accordingly. So when you are consistently thinking that you're in a state of failure or pain or unsuccess, that's what will continue to resonate in your life and in your environment. But when you are always thinking that you're boundless, that you're successful, that God is with you, that you can do this, that you're healthy, you're healed, your brain picks up on that as well and sends a completely different signal to your body to heal itself. It's really powerful. It's amazing.
It sounds amazing. It reminds me of a documentary I watched on Netflix maybe a couple of years ago, highlighting people who were able to heal just through reconditioning their brain. And some had like terminal cancer and things like that. The power of the brain.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, capitalism functions and survives off of us not understanding the power that we have. If people realize that they had a huge part in healing themselves and in changing their own life, we wouldn't have $1 billion pharmaceutical industry. But we do because people rely more on conditions outside of themselves or solutions outside of themselves versus relying on themselves. And that's another reason why entrepreneurship is so important to me, because I believe that God sends us here with everything that we need. We are complete already with everything that we need to do and create the life that we want, but we don't remember our own strength. We don't remember what we have. And so then we are always looking outside of us for validation. We're looking outside of us, in some cases, to be hired. We're looking outside of us for someone else to tell us what we deserve to be paid. I'm not saying no one should ever have a job, because there are some very great companies, but you always have to have the recognition that even if that job stopped today, you could survive and you could go out there and know how to create something.
Very well said. Tell me about the best investment in yourself you ever made.
Ooh, investment in myself. Well, I did buy my car in cash. That was really important to me, especially after having that repo so many years ago. I knew I wanted to do things differently now at this point in my life. So I feel like that was a really big step for me. Yeah, was buying my car in cash and knowing that I own it. It's mine. I also bought a house, but I didn't buy that one in cash. So it is exciting to have a home, but I think it's I feel a lot more excited knowing that this car is mine. It really does mean something to me.
That's great. When we're talking about pursuing entrepreneurship, things like having a car payment or having debt that you have to repay, those are factors that are going to play into whether you're going to be able to take that leap or not. So the fact that you're able to just own it outright, that's just one less bill you have to worry about.
Exactly. And that's been a huge relief. Having a car payment, it locks you in and it's hard. So I would always tell anyone, especially if you're in the process of rebuilding your financial circumstance or if you're working towards a bigger financial goal, do not go and get a car payment unless it's like $99 a month. but do not go and get a $300 car payment or even a $200 car payment. Like, sometimes we have to be okay with sacrificing what other people think to get to our goals. Don't get a new car with a nice car payment just so that other people can be like, oh, you have a nice car. Maybe you will have to drive around in a 10-year-old car for a few years. But what you're going to come out with at the end of the day is so much more than you would have come out with if you were still making that $300, $400, $500 car payment.
So tell me about one thing about money you wish you could tell your younger self.
Ooh, buy stocks earlier. Buy stocks way earlier. Yeah, way earlier. And educate yourself way earlier. Like, by the time you're 16, 15, 18, you need to be on a financial journey. Like, it is your responsibility. Don't wait until you have kids to be like, oh, I got to get my finances together. No, you need to get your finances together before a child is even brought into this world, because you owe it to that child.
You are speaking my language.
Yep.
Fill in the blank. In 3 words or less, money to me is?
Money to me is energy.
What do you want your legacy to be?
Empowered.
So Ellie, you've shared so many amazing tips, and it's just been a pleasure to have you on the podcast today. Please tell our listeners where they can find you.
Absolutely. So my handle name is Ellie Talks Money. And it's spelled ELLIE. That's also my website and also my email. So you guys can find me on all platforms at Ellie Talks Money. And let's connect. DM me, email me is actually really great because the DMs do get quite flooded. But email is always great. And I really look forward to connecting with all of you. Thank you so much again.
Thank you.
All right, dreamers. That was Ellie Diop. I hope you enjoyed all the knowledge Ellie dropped in today's episode. Thank you, everyone that's been here since episode 1. If you're new, thank you for being here. Make sure you go back and listen to the previous episodes. I think this is the perfect time to read my first review on air. This review is from Linda Hiller. Informative and inspiring. I love hearing other people's stories of how they succeeded and listen for the bits of advice that they share. Anne-Lyse shares not only her advice, but also brings out the wisdom and inspiration of a remarkable guest. I look forward to who and what she shares next. Linda, thank you so much for this review. Tune in next week. Thank you for listening to today's episode of the Dreamers Podcast. You can find today's show notes and all of the links mentioned during the episode at dreamoflegacy.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, here's what you can do to support me and help more dreamers discover the podcast. Leave a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. I read every single review and I'll select one review to read on the podcast every month. Subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Share the podcast with your family, friends, and coworkers. And if you really enjoyed today's episode, tag me on Instagram at thedreamers.podcast and let me know what you liked about it. Next week on the podcast, we have business strategist and best-selling author Tina Wells. I hope to see you back here next week.
Okay, dreamers, time to build this legacy.
This podcast is for general information purposes only. It is not intended to provide any tax, legal, financial planning, insurance, accounting, investment, or any other kind of professional advice or services. Please consult with an appropriate tax, financial, or legal professional to receive appropriate advice based on your situation.
Sunday, Skincare Day, is one of the ways I keep my sanity in these crazy times. Jimino is an all-natural, Black-owned skincare brand carefully handcrafted by parents who could not find the proper care solutions to address their family skin problems. All Jimino products are made of organic, and high-quality ingredients, meticulously chosen to give your skin the smooth results and the glow it deserves.